Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Johnny Vedmore read through. I'm here with a cocoa, a hot chocolate for this read through, an important read through. I can hear my dog barking in the background. Going, important, woof, woof, extremely important. Yes, this is the third of the Nicole Junkermann series. This is Junkermann 3.0, model or Mossad. Yes. So we're going to go through this today, and it was an article that, for those who know and have heard the story before, switch off your ears and ignore me. For those who haven't, Nicole Junkermann became the bane of my existence. I wrote the first two articles. Nicole Junkermann 1.0 was, of course, the IDF linked Bond girl who's infiltrating the UK NHS, the Epstein associate nobody's talking about. And the second one was Epstein Junkermann, September the 1st, 2002, and the Wexner War on Terrorism. The war in Iraq and the Wexner War on Terrorism. And of course, if you've seen those read-throughs, heard those read-throughs, seen those read-throughs, read the article, if you've done all of that, then you'll know the story. This obviously intriguing lady was connected with intelligence, had been with the head of Adidas in an affair that cost basically their family, the Louis-Dreyfus family, a large part of their empire. This model, she had been an elite model, all of this, working with the Israeli state unit 8,200 on a board with Ehud Barak, 10th Prime Minister of Israel, and Pinchas Bucharest, ex-head of the IDF. These pretty big people to be in bed with, be aligned with. So she was a pretty interesting person. And as soon as I wrote those two articles, her legal team started to follow me around and have me deleted here and there, have me pulled off. She had I had a microtasker, really guilty. I mean, shameful. He was so he contacted me and he was like, "I'm so sorry that I've been employed to find you and have you taken offline while looking for Nicole Junkermann at the same time." So there was an operation on. I received another thing with a load of like requests for removal of my websites from Google. And then a couple of times I disappeared from the Google search completely and I had to fight back. But that could have also been something to do with Barbara Hewson at the time. Barbara Hewson, cat, sorry, I got my cats with me. If you see me rubbing down here, it's my cat, honest. That could have been Barbara Hewson, the lawyer who defended Rolf Harris and Jimmy Savile. I'm not saying she didn't defend him in court. She defended him ethically and morally on TV, which is even weirder. So there was a lot of trouble in my life all of a sudden. And when my big ginger Tom cat was dying one day, I received a letter through the letterbox, of course, through the post, and it was from a Berlin regional court charging me for her censorship of my articles through a Berlin regional court. It's amazing. Oh, so I was at war with Nicole Junkermann. It was like my cat died in front of me. I was like, these two things will forever be linked. You killed my cat, Junkermann. Who killed my cat? No, she didn't. He was about 20 years old. He was pretty old. He died. He puffed out his last. He was dying for ages beforehand. I'm surprised he lasted the last 6 years. He was dying for 6 years. basically. But he was such a good fella. What a nice fella, Cold Cat. Here's the Cold Cat. Never shall you be forgotten, along with Junkermann. So, 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 I was like, what can I do? What else can I do apart from document the extraordinarily interesting life of this woman further? If she's going to take me to court, she's going to charge me for my own censorship. If she's going to censor me, she'll probably run into the middle of the storm, shouldn't I, with a flamethrower? And, ah! So that's what I did. I wrote another article. I wrote another article. Nicole Junkermann 3.0 model on Mossad, and it was the most it's the longest, most comprehensive. Um, the first two had already taught me a lot, and by this point, I was like, I was like gung ho, working on desk of a 2-star reception, a hotel reception, 2-star hotel reception desk in a travel lodge and typing behind the researching behind the things, writing things down. I did a board. We'll look at it when I go on. I did a board, like an investigation board for this, and it was really important. Really important. The whole thing was like, okay, I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna try and find every single little bit I can. She's invested recently with SpaceX. They bought a satellite array that were mentioned in this. And because of its style, some of it is bigger than others. Some portions are bigger than others. So, it's not necessarily an article that flows in the same way as most of my articles, but it does in the sense that it's chronological. So here we go. We should go in. We should go into it, shouldn't we? We should stop messing about. Would you stop messing about? Let's get it on. Oh, where are we? Oh, we're at NEWSPASTE. This is my website, newspaste.com. Also, johnnyvedmore.com you can go to too. Find the links in the descriptions. And if you come here, please buy me a coffee or become a patron. Either way, I will love you forever and you will be supporting this very fundamental work and keeping me independent. I'm trying to remain independent, but it's hard. And the fact is that every time I try and tell a truth, I lose a load of other people who go, well, I didn't want to know that truth. So being objective in media is extremely hard because you don't get support. I do a load of work. So you can searching for Stanley documentaries out. They're related to the Pottinger identity, the first series. The second series will be related to the Pottinger supremacy, and Pottinger ultimatum will be the third. If you don't want to read those articles, those very long 7,500 to 10,000 word articles, yeah, then you can listen to them. I'll read them through just like we're doing now. Look, there's Stanley Pottinger. Oh, look, there's Stanley Pottinger. Oh, look, there's Stanley Pottinger. And I am doing more and more live streaming. So, including Epstein file reviews recently, more searching for Stanley, loads of searching for Stanley. My last article at UK column, support UK column, Pablo Miller. My Schwab series, of course, is pretty popular. Newspaper podcast at the moment is once a month. I promise to get more on once I get some funding behind me because I got a lot to do at the moment. This is Nicole Junkermann 1.0 read through. And there's loads here. NewsPaste isn't a lazy site at all. There's in Newshound, I go through all of the source material in various articles and some other things that aren't articles. I also train people in the ways of the World Economic Forum, bastards, and I do funny shows like NEWSPASTE, and there's loads. There's Epstein articles galore. There's Black Hand articles. There's the murder Stanley Setti. There's lots you can get, and you can contact me right at the bottom, and that's newspace.com. It is my main place. So please help me, support me. I know. Please support me. Now, if you were to search NewsPage, you could search for a Junkermann, and that's her name. Ooh, to ah. Let's not argue about this. It's it's Sunday afternoon. I have a hot chocolate. It was a long it's been a long couple of weeks with these Epstein files. I've gone up to 15 million people. Oh my God. So, and I've been on Spaces a lot recently. I've been enjoying it. If you type in Junkermann, you'll get various Junkermann read-throughs. You'll also get the Junkermann articles here. And what we want, see, these are the ones related to Nicole Junkermann. She comes up in both Epstein 101, and then the fourth in the series is Daniel Korski, who's aiming to be mayor of London, who was aiming to be mayor of London. Haven't checked out his campaign recently, probably ended already. And here we go. Here we go. Who is Nicole Junkermann? You see the investigation board. Let's go down to the color. There's a color version of it here. Look at that. That was what I drew up for this article. And you see all of the players. See all of the players. You see over here, we're going to start off with her being an elite models. John Casablancas elite models, the proper guys. Naomi Campbell and others were elite models. In 1995, it was the peak of this agency as well. It was when all of the big ones were out there. Like, this was the time of the supermodel. This was the birth of them, you know, and she was right at the center in 1995. But she was much more than just her pretty looks, was Nicole Junkermann. And she also met a man very early on called Robert Louis-Dreyfus, who basically helped her invest in a load of different companies along the way. She went into a relationship with Patrick Graf on Faber Castel. And there's a load of things that happened in between, including her going to Harvard and then ending up on Epstein's jet twice. That's where I found her, of course. Is she with Brad Pitt, Paul Allen, co-founder of Microsoft. Up there, her baby being christened or baptized, sorry, in the Vatican. Ehud Barak up there. Les Wexner, Sepp Blatter, Philip Blatter, Huberto Hoffman, Countess Peretti. She becomes Ferdinando, Swarm, AI, Oakwin, Grok. All of them. Now SpaceX. This woman has been around it all. Carbine 9/11. Peter Thiel. See all of this? See all of this? This woman has done loads in her life. It's been extremely successful. Extremely successful. But who is she? And why did she end up getting involved in the Health Tech Advisory Board? The NHS. Why did Matt Hancock bring her in? Daniel Korski. What was all this about? What is she? Is she model or Mossad? She could be many things, to be perfectly honest, but those were the questions I asked. So let us begin this drama, my friends. Nicole Junkermann, 3.0, model or Mossad. Nicole Junkermann is not just a hotshot angel investor and businesswoman. She is so much more than just that. If it was up to the Countess Peretti, as she is also titled, you wouldn't know anything about her past. She is in almost complete control of her public image. However, Junkermann almost lost the ability to dictate the narrative virtually overnight as a result of my first article, which exposed her links to Jeffrey Epstein and members of Israeli intelligence, such as 10th Israeli Prime Minister, Epstein's close friend and IDF poster boy, Ehud Barak. Of course, come up in the document dumps. These were not fictitious links. They were well documented and readily available for anybody to point out. I was simply the first one to do so. I had spent years researching this fascinating woman, and I had finally put most of the information I'd found in one place. Nicole didn't appreciate my efforts very much. I soon received pressure anonymously via various fake personas to hide my findings, but Junkermann had underestimated one vitally important fact. She had gotten herself involved in the UK National Health Service, a fanatically protected public institution that I helped pay for. Not only is my money invested in their marvelous NHS, but they've literally saved my life. I owe them my very existence. It is also, of course, my right as a journalist to reveal relevant public interest information about any entity involved in this sacred institution of the United Kingdom. But Nicole Junkermann doesn't seem to think she has to stand for any criticism from the public about her links with Epstein and others. May I just say, the NHS through COVID was exactly systematically destroyed by people with links similar to Nicole Junkermann. It's awful what they're doing to it. So, in response to her many legal actions to censor this information, I've investigated the various systems she uses to Photoshop her past and the information she has actively conspired to hide. Some of my findings are so potentially viral and pertinent that they should be almost impossible for Nicole Junkermann and her cohorts to successfully conceal. I intend to eventually publish an entire history of Junkermann's family tree going back over 500 years, as I have with malevolent paedophile protector Barbara Hewson. But for now, let's take a look at Nicole Junkermann's car by 9/11 and recent AI investments. Car by 9/11, Ehud Barak, and a race to capitalize on COVID-19 track and trace apps. Carbine 9/11 has evolved since my first article, and the company, founded by the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, are setting their sights on being deeply involved in various COVID-19 digital track and trace projects around the world. But I have started by focusing solely on the United States. The Mossad man and his ex-IDF team are very keen to exploit the COVID-19 pandemic as a way to gobble up mass data directly from government sources. Carbine 9/11 promote themselves as the solution to the current crisis. They say Carbine's cloud-native C Live Universe Plus platform can be deployed seamlessly and instantaneously to emergency call centers, health centers, remote doctors, and the state government, and creates a unified awareness center that provides unprecedented interoperability, analytics, as well as protection to both citizens and first responders. The entire Carbine platform has been designed for emergency situations such as pandemics. They are completely prepared to take advantage of the current situation. And what will you be giving this group of ex-IDF hitmen and hackers for them to supply such a service? All of your private data, or unprecedented analytics, as they may prefer to term it? Carbine 9/11 featured in the Forbes article dated 17th of March 2020 and written by Denise Cam and Tom Brewster, entitled "To Fight Coronavirus, This City is Asking 911 Callers to Agree to Self-Surveillance." The mainstream duo of journalists state, "These responders are now using a tool built in part by the former members of Israel's military intelligence, Elikai being one. That's backed by Peter Thiel's Founders Fund, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who is now the company's chairman, and a small passive investment from deceased multimillionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein." They quickly gloss over Epstein's connection and label it a small passive investment. The article also completely fails to mention Junkermann or her NJF Capital equity firm. The article appears to be more about manufacturing consent on behalf of Carbine 9/11 than getting to the truth. The Forbes piece gives a major opportunity to entrepreneur and director Amir Elikai to make a positive case for the company. But In one convoluted paragraph with a however to nowhere, the authors find themselves needing to excuse the company for more intelligence-based shenanigans, writing, Carbine has risked being associated with the murky world of government snooping. However, one original vice president was Eric Badoon, who in 2014 merged his old business Circles, a smartphone tracking company, with NSO Group, a $1 billion spyware provider currently being sued by Facebook for attacks on its WhatsApp user base. NSO Group has asked for more time to respond to Facebook claims. But in a recent statement, CEO Shalev Julio told the court that while NSO simply built the smartphone surveillance technology, it didn't control exactly how customers used it. Benoon left the company after it moved to the US and is a passive investor, says Elikai, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Passive investor. Their careful wording seems to suggest that because Eric Benoon is no longer in a lead role at the company, that means they're no longer linked with the murky world of government snooping, an obvious fallacy. Carbine 911 can't hide the type of characters that they have had back in their project, including Eric Benoon, Peter Thiel, Nicole Junkermann, Ehud Barak, and the late child trafficking pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. On the Carbine 911 site, under the section about apps data sharing capability, the Carbine team states, the data sharing tool gives EMS, remote doctors, and call takers the ability to easily connect and share information as they provide access to their Carbine UI with third parties. But they fail to explain which third parties will be involved. We are talking about access to people's private data on a massive scale, access that intelligence agents lust for. And the Carbine 911 board of directors is made up of some of IDF's former chief intelligence experts. Everybody knows that once you're working for the Mossad, then you are in the Mossad for life. Giving access to the private data from government organizations to a company so closely linked with the brutal Israeli Defense Force should be resisted at any and all costs. Many of Nicole Junkermann's accusations of defamation seem to be aimed at the various people who openly exclaim that they believe Junkermann herself is a Mossad super spy. This speculation has partly come about because she was one of the only members of the original Carbine 911 board of directors who hadn't at some point been declared an official Israeli state agent. What is also of note in relation to Nicole Junkermann's attachment to the Carbine 911 project is that it's one of the few companies Junkermann has invested in with both her private equity firm NJF Capital and with personal investment. And she also initially chose to have a very active role in the organization. Ehud Barak, Junkermann, and Pinchas Bucras have been removed from the website since I brought attention to their company. They have also removed all the sinister photos of the management emerging from the shadows as though they were ready to cut the throats of their enemies. They have attempted to polish their image since last year, and it's very telling that they removed Ehud Barak, General Bucras, and even Nicole Junkermann from their website to achieve that goal. If Carbine 911 are allowed to access data on an unprecedented scale, then they will become one of the richest and most powerful companies on Earth. For in the modern day, data is king. Of course, they replaced their board with a load of neocons, including Michael Chertoff, who is one of the Alliance for Security and Democracy that runs out of the German Marshall Fund at Harvard, which I've done articles on. So very interesting. So here we go. This is some of Nicole Junkermann's project. Swarm Technologies and their budget satellite project. While Elon Musk's 2020 global satellite display was promising to bring controversial 5G access across the globe, Nicole Junkermann has been investing in the budget alternative of Musk's plan to connect the entire Earth to high-speed internet access. Swarm are planning to launch small cube satellites in large numbers to deliver the internet to the world. The idea has obvious positive benefits to many areas of the globe which have no internet access at all. However, the project appears to be over-promising, whilst noting that the satellites may only be able to deliver 2G or 3G signals. Grok. Oh, that satellite array has already been bought by SpaceX, and now she's part of SpaceX. Nicole Junkermann, fully invested. You can find her name and her investment details on Crunchbase. Yes, you can. Here we go. Let's get it going on. Grok, another like really important part to the AI coding that people like Musk and others use. Grok is also really important. She's also involved in that. Grok, applied intuition, Gideon Brothers, evolved technology, and the race to AI. Many of the ventures in which Nicole Junkermann has spent the last few years investing in are all within the realm of AI technology. Grok, a company for whom she helped raise 7.7 million in 2 rounds of initial seed funding, deals with electronics for machine learning. Applied Intuition won extra investment in September 2019 and concentrates on testing autonomous vehicles under the control of its founder, Peter Ludwig and Kesar Yunus. Gideon Brothers offer AI solutions for autonomous mobile robots and has a London-based Pontland Ventures as their lead investor. Evolve Technology Solutions are a Californian-based tech company dealing in a platform for autonomous optimization. All these high-tech companies are geared towards making AI possible and are also companies with technological innovations with militaristic applications. Oquin, Deep Genomics, and the Health Tech Advisory Board. Since my initial article, which pointed out Nicole Junkermann's connection with Epstein and Israeli intelligence, the Health Tech Advisory Board has not met again. But the NHS's relationship with Oquin and the promise of sharing NHS private user data has not gone away. Oquin states that they use machine learning for medical research, but this comes with the risk of a private company funded by private equity giants potentially able to access the data of every UK citizen. Deep Genomics lead investors include Khosla Ventures, True Ventures, and Future Ventures, based in Toronto, Canada. The founder, Andre DeLong, Brendan Frey, and Hugh Young Xiong, promise AI for genetic therapies. Junkermann's attempt to hide her past by censorship. Here we go. Before I published my original article, I spent a very long time contemplating the various potential outcomes. It is within Nicole Junkermann's character to fight every battle, even if it's a battle against the truth. I knew what I was letting myself in for by highlighting her powerful links so concisely, but it was the right thing to do. In fact, the article was just a collection of information which was already available in various places online. But Nicole Junkermann didn't expect anyone with an independent opinion to scrutinize the scattered evidence. When the quirky investigators at Vote.com started to develop her associations further, the entire site came under a massive cyber attack that took Vote offline, only to return as an archived site. That was the moment when everybody involved truly began to believe that Nicole Junkermann was actually an agent of the Mossad. That decision to illegally attack and attempt to censor the work of many clever Vote users caused a tidal wave throughout some of the independent media's vast community. She is completely archived now, taken offline. Brought back but only archived. People said, oh no, it didn't disappear. Yes, it did. You can't post to it anymore. And that was because of the Nicole Junkermann attack. So it's just unbelievable. To the thousands of people involved, that act of unadulterated and unlawful cyber terrorism committed to protect Nicole Junkermann was an obvious sign of her importance. Whether that act was actually perpetrated by Nicole Junkermann and Carbine 9/11 or by another conspirator is irrelevant, probably Black Cube. That is the moment everybody began assuming that Nicole Junkermann had definitely been a member of the Mossad for decades. To those who witnessed the online aggression against Vote, Nicole Junkermann's links to Jeffrey Epstein and Israeli intelligence were fused forever. After all, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and cyber attacks like the Mossad, then it's probably not a duck you're dealing with. Nicole's aggressive response to the various speculations that she could be a Mossad agent had begun. At first, I was unaware of the various tools she was going to utilize to systematically hide her connections to Epstein and Israeli intelligence. But the problem for Countess Bracetti Peretti is that the internet is full of people who like the truth to be known. By the winter of 2019-2020, I was starting to receive tips from various ordinary and honest folk who had become involved. I had already published the second article on Nicole Junkermann and Jeffrey Epstein's visit to a UK country house owned by Les Wexner, where they met with two sitting senators. And afterwards, I was planning to move on to another project, but Nicole Junkermann was intent on destroying my freedom of speech. The interviews I had given about her incredible connections were being taken off YouTube by various court actions across mainland Europe. Ed Operman was the first to contact me with news of a successful censorship of public interest interviews. Then ex-BBC legend Tony Goslin rang me out one afternoon to say that his content had been pulled in the same way. Tony urged me to fight her and gave me some sound advice. Then Jason Bermas's interviews with me were also censored via legal action directed at YouTube. It was clear that there was much more happening behind the scenes. I was eventually contacted by a friendly Frenchman who worked on a German microtasking website. He had been given the same job repeatedly. He was to search for the name Nicole Junkermann on Google and was to write down the results that were returned. Eventually, the genial chap became suspicious and decided to check out who Nicole Junkermann actually was. He soon contacted me to tell me the details of his work. Then another newly encountered ally got in touch with a long list of web pages that Nicole Junkermann's solicitor had pulled off Google. All of those websites had been removed from Google's search engine with no questions asked. In this time, Nicole also attempted to flood the internet with favorable articles about her, and she also released multiple YouTube videos in various languages, advertising each of her investments under the title Nicole Junkermann Presents, in an attempt to drown out the videos that she was having removed. And then came the request from the Berlin Regional Court for me to pay 2/3 of Nicole Junkermann's legal fees for her taking out an injunction that I was never officially informed of. My grandfather fought in a war to stop German state from taking away our freedom of speech. Yet here I was, it's 2020, and a German millionaire is attempting to censor my public interest journalism. Nicole Junkermann was not only censoring anybody who criticized her, but also seemed to be hiding everything about herself from 2011. That's why I decided the only really effective response to somebody who is hiding all their past is to expose everything I could find. If you want to invest in the UK National Health Service, then you can expect such extreme scrutiny and nothing less. So here is Nicole Junkermann's history from 1995 onwards, much of which she has attempted to hide. She has. She has attempted to hide. So we section it up here. First 6 years, 1995 to 2001. Elite Models, Europe and Winamax. So Elite, and here you go. This is the flash. There's a page out the Elite Models in 1995 catalog showing Nicole Junkermann with dark hair, owned by John Casablancas. This is one of the parts of the board. In 1995, Nicole Junkermann was 19 to 20 years old, depending on which side of April the 27th you're looking at. Artorian. Junkermann was one of the top names on the roster for John Casablancas Elite Models. the high-end supermodel agency representing the biggest name on the catwalk. The giant names at Elite at the time were such celebrities as Naomi Campbell, Linda Evangelista, Yasmin Le Bon, and Cindy Crawford. The supermodel scene was oversaturated with some of the greatest icons of all time. Nicole Junkermann was competing for space with Kate Moss, Eva Herzegovina, and Claudia Schiffer, and many other queens of the catwalk. If you were to search for any of the models who Nicole shared her time at Elite with, you would find plenty of images of their many appearances, but Junkermann herself is absent from these same archives. Trying to find evidence that Nicole Junkermann really was a high-profile model is almost impossible. It's as if she has been completely deleted from history at a time when there were cameras everywhere. The only evidence I could find confirming her life as a top model was an askew photograph of an Elite model's headshot catalogue from 1995. This wonky portfolio showed only 5 images of Junkermann's work, where she was sporting dark hair in different photo sessions. There was no evidence of which publications or shows she actually appeared in, just those 5 shots. Junkermann was not advertised in the same Elite agency catalogue from 1994. I searched through thousands of catwalk shows during this period for a glimpse of Junkermann, but I found no more leads. The absence of modeling photos had bothered me during my original article. Surely there should be hundreds of past pictures, but now I understand her mentality and techniques better. Her missing history isn't a big surprise. I think, to be honest, the modeling was probably an early attempt to supply her with cover when she'd already been recruited by intelligence. So she's a model in the modeling world, and it just she found a way in that was much bigger than that. The world of the 1990s supermodel wasn't only extraordinarily competitive, it was also blighted by a false body image that contracted in width year after year. At the beginning of the 1990s, the models were often voluptuous and naturally curved, but by the mid to later years of the decade, the model had become thinner and thinner. Many looked emaciated, starved, and often very young. Nicole Junkermann did not fit the changing trend. She was a natural beauty and normally proportioned, not a wafer-thin ghost like many of the models to come. Nicole Junkermann had some more determination and focus than most of her modeling companions. She was definitely more than just a pretty face. Nicole went on to complete her first degree at the International University of Monaco, and she later followed that up with a business management qualification from Harvard University in the US. And during her first degree, she helped found a company called Winamax in France, or so the story goes. But if you take even the most cursory glance at the tale of Winamax, there are obvious holes in the official story of its founding. Comes up again and again. Holes. Nicole Junkermann got them holes. Remember, support my work, support this independent journalism. You can like, subscribe, share, all of that stuff. But also, at the top and the bottom, you'll be able to find Buy Me a Coffees. Join my Patreon. Buy Me a Coffee is a really, really easy way to support me. Really fundamentally, something I need is just support right now. Winamax was described originally as a football gaming platform and was a fantastic resource for football stats and data. In essence, it was an early digital version of fantasy football where no real money was exchanged and the site seemed to be running on ad revenue alone. If you were to search for Winamax now, you discover that it has become one of many pro poker sites. You'd also be told by Google that it was founded by Patrick Bruel, Nicole Junkermann, Alexandra Roos, Christoph Charming, Alex Dreyfus from an idea by Robert Louis-Dreyfus. But this isn't entirely true. In fact, Winamax was the pet project of its real founder, a man called Max Berhe. But like everything from Nicole Junkermann's past, it is information that has been altered slowly over many years. It is also unclear how much Junkermann invested into the project or how she managed to raise the capital while still a university student. This was her first official company, and it became tainted with rumors about her relationship with the Adidas boss and Winamax idea man, Robert Louis-Dreyfus. Louis-Dreyfus, who was married to Margarita Louis-Dreyfus at the time, was accused of having a sexual relationship with Nicole Junkermann that led him and his wife to live separate lives. The Wall Street Journal eventually reported on the subject on the 3rd of November 2016 in an article written by Sarah McFarlane, Catherine Dunn, and Martin Van Tartwick entitled Family Feud at Louis Dreyfus. One of the world's largest commodity traders spills into court. The article states that by the late 1990s, Mr. Louis-Dreyfus had started a relationship with Nicole Junkermann, a German sports and media entrepreneur 3 decades his junior. People familiar with the matter said Robert Louis-Dreyfus eventually died of leukemia in 2009, and in the following decades his widow began selling off the inherited fortune, much to the dismay of the wider Louis-Dreyfus family. That's really interesting. That whole thing is really interesting. He chose Nicole Junkermann over his family inheritance. 2001 to 2011, in front and dating the elite. After the steamy relationship with Mr. Louis-Dreyfus has seemingly fizzled out, Nicole Junkermann began dating German entrepreneur and socialite Patrick Graf von Faber Castel. At this point in her history, Junkermann had managed to get through a controversial business deal with her public image basically intact, and Mr. Louis-Dreyfus took most of the flack for their future business dealings surrounding the 2006 World Cup. During Nicole's relationship with Faber Castel, she was persuaded to sell Winamax and begin her own private equity firm. Junkermann's relationship with Patrick Graf von Faber Castel didn't last long, but they did remain friends, and Junkermann was eventually pictured in 2006 at the wedding of Patrick Alexander Hubertus, Count of Faber Castel, and German actor Mariella Arens, who was originally born in Russia. Right. We're about to see some of these characters. So this is the part of the investigation board. It's Sepp Blatter and a lot. These guys watching Brazil versus France here. And up here in Olympic Marseille, watching Monaco and Olympic Marseille draw 1-1. There's Junkermann, and this is Robert Louis-Dreyfus. Robert Louis-Dreyfus and Junkermann. She was with him for years. This is Philip Blatter. He's a nephew of Sepp Blatter. Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Seinfeld. That's Robert Louis-Dreyfus's sister. Sister or cousin? Oh, cousin. Yeah, sorry. It's written there. I thought I was wrong. Nicole Junkermann's relationship with Robert Louis-Dreyfus was still ever present and extremely complicated. Mr. Louis-Dreyfus was a man who was eventually accused of widespread corruption and bribery in their next joint business venture, Infront Sports and Media. In fact, the next decade and a half saw various German authorities investigating the widespread corruption surrounding the organization of Germany's 2006 FIFA World Cup. Infront was awarded the television rights for the FIFA football tournament by conveniently placing Sepp Blatter's nephew as its chief executive. Eventually, they were rewarded with further coverage rights of the 2018 and 2022 FIFA World Cups, helping Infront Media be sold for a massive fee in 2011 to Bridgepoint. On September the 1st, 2002, Jeffrey Epstein and Nicole Junkermann flew alone from Paris to Birmingham in the United Kingdom and visited, the Wexham Mansion for a shooting weekend with 2 sitting US senators. In 2003, Junkermann doesn't seem to be noted anywhere, in contrast to the following years where she is seen at many events for the wealthy and powerful. When the Hollywood blockbuster Ocean's 12 was being promoted in Monaco, Nicole Junkermann and her close friend, Sunday morning, Nicole Junkermann and her close friend, U.S. Tennis Grand Slam champion Monica Seles, were in attendance. Karl Lagerfeld had organized the event where George Clooney and Brad Pitt were at the center of attention. A wonky-looking Junkermann is pictured alongside Pitt at this event, but Nicole chose to give the photographer the false name as Sophia, so most researchers never came across the shot of Brad Pitt with Nicole Junkermann. A much more relevant superstar and tech pioneer was pictured with Nicole Junkermann arriving at Cinema Against AIDS event of the same year. She is again marked as an unnamed guest, arriving at the event along co-founder of Microsoft, the late Paul Allen. Junkermann sat on table 44 with Paul Allen and her friend Monica Seles, the 90s tennis ace, originally from the former Yugoslavia. Was also spotted the same year with Junkermann at Laureus World Sports Awards. In 2005, Junkermann founded United in Sports, and she moved to Shanghai, where the operation was based, but not before being spotted at the Sorbonne in Paris, attending the gala evening in the aid of Institut de Versailles et du Sang, alongside her ex-lover, Robert Louis-Dreyfus, a man who was becoming sicker each time they met. Her time in Shanghai was not heavily publicized except for the enormous figure of 242.2 million euros, which the United in Sports equity firm raised during 2007 alone. She was spotted again in Venice that year on the 8th of June for a dinner in honor of Jana Bullock. In 2009, Robert Louis-Dreyfus finally succumbed to his long illness. In 2011, Junkermann dedicated the successful sale of Infront Sports Media to his memory. But Mr. Louis-Dreyfus had seemingly failed to see that his family's inherited business was no longer in the safe hands under his estranged wife, Margaret Louis-Dreyfus. Mrs. Louis-Dreyfus had already begun a relationship with BlackRock chief executive Philip Hildebrand, who was once head of Switzerland's central bank. And the eventual sale of the various Louis-Dreyfus family assets will probably be the real legacy of Robert's life's work. Heavy. 2012 onwards, the documented years. After the sale of Infront Sports Media, Junkermann had become a very rich lady, but she had never been one to rest on her laurels. In 2012, Junkermann made more public appearances. Only then she started giving the photographers her real name. It was clear that she was looking to begin a new era of her life. Junkermann was again pictured with Monica Seles at that year's Laureus welcome party, and later with Leona Koenig and Eva Deschamps, attending the 65th at Cannes Film Festival at the Cinema Against AIDS event. In 2013, she was also pictured at Cannes, where she attended a VIP Giorgio Armani launch party with other famous models from her past. But then she started to focus and begin to form NJF Capital into a professional working entity. In that year, she invested in Songza, which went on to be acquired by Google in 2014. In 2014, she also began a reality project in Ireland called Ziggurat, project in Ireland called Ziggurat, which eventually fell through, as well as visiting an art exposition in Bogota, Colombia, possibly representing the Tate Gallery. 2015 was a really busy year where she was still forming her private equity firm NJF Capital, where her still forming private equity firm NJF Capital invested in Jobio, Chiaro, LV, and Thousand Child. It is also in 2015 when Nicole Junkermann is spotted with her future husband, the Italian API oil baron Count Ferdinando Bracetti-Peretti. Ferdinando Bracetti-Peretti and his brother Ugo Maria Bracetti-Peretti were both listed in Jeffrey Epstein's famous Our Little Black Book. But their relationship with the carotid pedophile billionaire is not clear. The Bracetti-Peretti family has some very prestigious lineage. Ugo and Ferdinando's father was the previous boss of API Oil for over 3 decades, Aldo Bracetti-Peretti, born as simply Aldo Maria Bracetti. He eventually combined his surname with the surname of his father-in-law, Cavaliere del Lavoro Ferdinando Peretti. Aldo's wife was named Mila and worked for the Red Cross for 30 years and was the only woman in Italian history to carry the military grade of general. Mila's youngest sister was the famous New York-based jewelry designer and model Elsa Peretti, who was the founder of Tiffany & Co. I gotta check whether she was the founder. There's some sort of dispute over that, and I think it's right. I gotta check that detail. The young Elsa was seemingly in rebellion from her famous Italian family and ran off to New York without any future financial support from her oil baron father. She'd eventually became a legend of the New York Studio 54 era, where she mixed with iconic giants like Andy Warhol, Halston, and Liza Minnelli. Count Ferdinando Peretti, who was originally married to Princess Mafalda von Hesse and Nicole Junkermann, met on a few occasions before eventually partnering up while staying at the elite Gstaad Palace in Switzerland. The history books will write about the Ferdinando comically chastised, how the Ferdinando comically chastised Nicole when meeting by accident in the Swiss hotel lobby, saying to Vanity Fair .com in an interview originally published in February 2019. When I saw her, I said, "You are a very naughty woman. Why didn't you reply to the message I left you 2 years ago?" On the 9th of April 2015, Italian website kickerpress.com released pictures of Ferdinando kissing an unnamed female, later identified as Junkermann during a romantic day out in Rome. In that same year, Junkermann officially founded her private equity firm NJF Capital. On July 13th, 2015, Ferdinando officially introduced Nicole to his lifelong friend, Carlos Martorell, the host of the VIP Flower Power events in Ibiza. He said of the couple in one of his blog posts, "Nicole is the perfect woman, very attractive, friendly, and powerful businesswoman. Ferdinando is, quite rightly, very much in love." In 2016, NJF Capital invested in CoinDrum and Catapult, and in 2017, Junkermann was named as co-chair of Magnum Global Ventures. It is around this time that she became involved with Carbine 911. In March that year, Ferdinando and Nicole were officially married, and the couple soon had a baby girl together. Junkermann, now Countess Peretti, then began her massive investment in AI tech startups. In late 2018, she was placed on the NHS Health Tech Advisory Board by Matt Hancock MP, and she was still relatively unknown to the wider world. Then, in the summer 2019, Nicole's past finally caught up with her, and she began her quest to regain complete control of her public image by using European courts and her great wealth. Yes, that past was me writing the first article. The World Security Network and their World 3.0. Before I conclude this romp through Junkermann's history, I'd like to point out an outstanding example of irony and hypocrisy by introducing you to the World Security Network. This half-cooked attempt at a credible global public policy institute made in the image of the Council of Foreign Relations describes itself as an NGO founded and funded by Dr. Hubertus Hoffmann, a German investor and geostrategist living in Berlin, former advisor in the European Parliament and German Bundestag, and US Senate in Foreign and Defense Affairs. The WSN has 72-member advisory board, which consists of well-known experts from 21 countries, 20 retired generals and admirals, and some of the most influential people in the world, from the Dalai Lama to Garry Kasparov. It boasts in their site's introductions that the World Security Network is not American, Asian, or European. We are the largest global elite action network for foreign and defense affairs in the world, focusing on the young and new elite. Neither left nor right, neither U.S. Republican or U.S. Democrat, or indeed an adherent to any other party line. WSN is the independent, international, and pluralistic non-profit organization. Neither a peace movement nor an organization of warmongers. It promotes a realistic and credible balance of realpolitik and idealpolitik, of power and diplomacy, of necessary military action and reconciliation, a double strategy of solid and realistic peacemaking. The new art of peacemaking we call World 3.0. Solution-orientated, looking for concrete proposals for all conflicts. Not bureaucratic, we are creative and action-orientated like businessmen. Not fanatical. We are engaged global citizens with a vision of networking a safer and better world for our children. These vague statements are obviously hyperbole once you dig a little deeper into their ideology. The World Security Network puts forward their proposal of a new world order titled simply World 3.0. The World Security Network explains that World 1.0 was stuck in administrating the status quo and defense of national interests through deterrence. Then they profess our most recent world order to be World 2.0, which is defined by a foreign policy which fails to offer coherent and creative action plans for crisis management, with little deeds and much talk, which does not deliver feasible results and staggers from one media-friendly conference to the next. Instead, the World Security Network boldly suggests World 3.0 is an upgrade of World 1.0 and World 2.0. The historical maxims and wisdoms of the importance of power and national interest as described by Cardinal Richelieu or German Chancellor Bismarck, and the need of realpolitik a la Hans J. Morgenthau and Henry A. Kissinger are still the solid base for World 3.0, but these are no longer sufficient for a successful foreign policy in the 21st century. The online piece, written by Dr. Hubertus Hoffmann, goes on to give international operation as Libya to depose Colonel Gaddafi as a successful example of good foreign policy. Astonishingly, he writes, as a rare exception, Libya proved in 2011 that political hotspots can also be dealt with effectively. There were no Western boots on the ground. The local rebels in Benghazi occupied the driver's seat, and the push came not from the United States, but from France and the United Kingdom. The tiny and wealthy Gulf states of Qatar and United Arab Emirates supported the air campaign with 18 jets from Muslim world side by side with European allies like Norway and Italy. This first joint NATO-Arab military campaign conducted more than 20,000 airstrikes in support of rebels. This confirmed Dr. Fritz Kramer's doctrine that nothing works without power. Surprisingly, the UN Security Council passed a resolution with Russia and China abstaining. The Arab public, as well as the Qatar-owned TV station Al Jazeera, supported NATO. The intervention aimed to protect human rights and prevent slaughter by the mad colonel. Minimum input resulted in maximum output, suffering a minimum of casualties among rebels and civilians, no losses of NATO jets or soldiers, and without burning huge amounts of money. A new post-dictatorship government was established in Libya. The mission was accomplished with globally networked and innovative World 3.0 approach. This organization is obviously completely deluded and ignorant to the terrible state Libya was left in by this savage and reckless military intervention. A country that has since seen the rise of slave markets that literally buy and sell human beings, including children. But this is their own proclamation of what the World 3.0 ideology represents. The entirely coherent yet completely insane description of World 3.0 from their own website should be read in full. There is even some clues to who may be supporting and funding this event behind the scenes. Today we have finally arrived in the global village. The Dalai Lama put it in a nutshell during the meeting of the World Security Network. There is no me and they. The whole world is me. Suck, suck, tongue. International organizations and action groups such as the World Economic Forum, Amnesty International, the Open Society Institute of George Soros, Human Rights Watch, the International Crisis Group, Young Presidents Organization, Catholic Lay Person Organization San Adagio from Rome, and its successful peacemaking efforts in Mozambique in 1992, or the World Security Network Foundation inspired by Fritz Kramer. All these organizations via the World Wide Web provide a permanent network for hundreds of thousands of active individuals from dozens of nations with entirely different ideas. Who do you think is sitting on the advisory board for this completely shady New World Order Association? Of course, it's Nicole Junkermann, alongside the European Council for Foreign Relations, Ulrich Gurot, Walter Lecure from the Center Strategic and International Studies, Washington, Ushan Ul-Haq, who was the director of ISI from 2001 to 2004, and chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of Pakistan military from 2004 to 2007. Other members of this organization include Rand Corporation's Robert E. Hunter, U.S. Defense Intelligence Grandee Mike Munson, and King's College professor Dr. Peter Newman, who was also director of the International Summit on Democracy, Terrorism and Security from 2004 to 2005. The World Security Network is a fine example of what Nicole Junkermann is involved in. Many of the World Security Network Advisory Board are ex-intelligence agents, former generals, and money men who push for military conflict. How can anyone possibly believe that Nicole Junkermann is not involved in any form of intelligence operations when these are her associates? Some conclusions. A truly fascinating woman. In concluding its very long and detailed article, I feel great sadness for Nicole Junkermann. In many ways, I believe that she is an outstanding example for humankind. She is a strong-willed, beautiful, funny, talented human who has reached almost the top of her potential. I do not have any qualms when I say that she is totally inspiring, and I'm even going to predict that one day they'll make a film to honor her fascinating life. But more importantly now, Nicole should stop hiding and manipulating her past. She'll have to accept that unless she were to set the record straight, people are going to make judgments based on what she chooses to hide and not what she chooses to tell them. She has made her own bed in many respects. To succeed in the world of men after her short stint modeling meant Nicole Junkermann got dirty at times. You don't survive in big business without claws, and she was always ready for a fight. However, many of the men she had in her life seemed to be eager to sacrifice their own credibility to protect her, so Nicole never really had to use those claws. Her relationship with the late Robert Louis-Dreyfus may have benefited Nicole's early business dealings, but I believed it to be a story of a great romance. Robert Louis-Dreyfus was far from a stupid man, and his decision to separate from his wife to be with Nicole Junkermann was a huge one. He didn't intend to divorce Margarita, and he must have known that the Louis-Dreyfus fortune that had been handed down for more than 150 years was at risk. He was more intent on being with Nicole than being a billionaire, a laudable choice for any hopeless romantic. In 2019, perhaps for the first time, Nicole Junkermann was up against an enemy she was never expecting to encounter. It was the first real time that anyone had called her out for her own actions. That aforementioned enemy wasn't me. Rather, it was the truth. I was just one of the potential delivery methods for that bad nostalgic news. It was all information that was already available for somebody to stumble across. The Jeffrey Epstein affair was way too big for some of his provable connections to avoid or contain. The Carbine 9/11 and Ehud Barak link were always going to be discovered. The flight manifest was always going to prove that she flew with Epstein twice, and World 3.0 was always going to look bad, seeing as no one had bothered to update their manifesto after the Libyan intervention went catastrophically south. Nicole Junkermann, May want to blame myself and everybody else for the situation she is in, but she's made those choices herself. She can't go around silencing every independent voice without eventually causing herself much more attention from much more mainstream sources. As for the main question, model or the Mossad, it is something that will be speculated on for many years to come. To be seen as a beautiful super spy isn't the worst possible fate possible. She may not even be the Mossad. She could possibly be simply a German intelligence agent, or maybe she's just mixed up with some really dirty characters like Barak and Epstein. But with the cyber attack on Vote, all of the systematic, fascistic acts of censorship, and taking court action against the work of independent journalists, well, the lady doth protest too much, methinks. In trying to bury this story, Nicole Junkermann's actions may have made it generate more interest. But every act of censorship she attempts just brings another dozen people into the fight. And so it will go for as long as that cycle continues. The sooner the truth comes out. The sooner the truth will come out. I'm going to leave you with a quote from a previously mentioned Vanity Fair article on the fabulous Countess Bracetti Peretti, a very fitting quote in Nicole Junkermann's own words. We live in a fake news world where people change their reality with Photoshop. Nicole Junkermann, 2019. There you go. That's the investigation board I showed you at the start. Does it make more sense now? Robert Louis-Dreyfus affair, Winnie Max, actually created by Max Derhy, a time at Elite Models, which was run by John Casablancas. Robert Louis-Dreyfus' wife, Margarita, who goes off with Philip Hildebrand of BlackRock. Patrick von Graf, Faber Castel. That's a Faber, and rather than Faber, and I put Faber there. Friends with Monica Seles and him. She's around a lot, see, with pictured there as well. She's Sepp Blatter down there, who was part of the Infront Sport Media buying the rights in a very dodgy way that eventually went through a German court. And Robert Louis-Dreyfus took all of the flack. And she's pictured here arriving with Paul Allen in a gown. And look, he thinks, and here she's pictured with Brad Pitt. Monica Seles is on the other arm. Shanghai Realty made a load of money. The senators of Foxcoat House flying with Epstein. Abigail Wexner owned Foxcoat House. Were they meeting John Kerry, who was the next to be king of the United States against George Bush, but failed? Herbert Hoffman and the World Security Network are buying with NJF Capital of all of these different organizations, are purchasing into getting invested in Carbine 9/11, which echoed Barak. Peter Thiel, Epstein, Benoon was part of it. They did part of COVID track and trace, all the AI stuff, the Health Tech Advisory Board, the death of Vote. That is this article. That is this art. There's a lot in it. A lot in it. Again, the next article in the series, one of the next read-throughs we do will be on this man, Daniel Korski, who invited Nicole Junkermann into the Health Tech Advisory Board and has significant intelligence links, and it looked to be Lord Mayor of London. And you can watch Searching for Stanley at the bottom. You can share these on the various platforms, of course. You become a patron. Buy me a coffee. Do it. Help support independent media. I can make more articles. I got loads more that I'm currently halfway through writing, 3/4 away through writing, but I've got to spend all my time trying to raise funds at the moment so I can live. So I want to get back to that. And so you can find that, and if you want to contact me, you can on the page below, and you can come to either one of my two sites. Either you can come to newspaste.com, or you can make it. You make it there. You can make it anywhere. You could even buy me a plan at the top there. You can come to johnnyvedmore.com, as you see. JohnnyVedmore.com is a little bit different in its style. It's got a drop-down menu at the top as well that allows you to find the various articles that are here. And again, buy me a coffee, blah, de, blah, de, blah, make a donation, blah, de, blah, de, blah. I need your support, blah, de, blah, de, blah. I most definitely do. That's it. Nicole Junkermann, the bulk of Nicole Junkermann. The next one's about Daniel Korski rather than Nicole Junkermann. But that Nicole Junkermann link is massive, really important, really massive, massively important. She's someone who's extremely interesting. She starts off as an elite model and she goes through all of this change in who she is, in what she does. She's constantly reforming herself. Now, if she's intelligence, they tend to create cover for themselves. And then eventually what they do is they run the operations. So cover can be as a model and then a businesswoman. And then she's then getting involved in lots of intelligence agency. But they were able to create a lot of money. Now, in front sports media was a front. In front, it was a front. Most definitely was a front. It was a front for some sort of scam to get the FIFA rights, sell it on as quickly as they could, amongst a load of people who were connected with Sepp Blatter. I know that David Whelan, who wrote a lot of the Lennon, wrote a Lennon book recently and does a lot of investigation into the assassination of John Lennon, has said that that was a scam. In front, he was there, he was employed in front sports media, and said from the off, they knew it was, everybody who was there knew it was an operation. So that's a really interesting thing as well. If you go back through time, you discover, yeah, okay, there's more and more problems. I think she's got a lot more. Nicole Junkermann, the reason why she aims and targets me is because she's got a lot more skeletons in the closet. Now, what's been interesting recently, there's been a little bit of a change in it all. Where before she was targeting me with these legal firms with censorship, they don't seem to be doing that as much or as brutally at the moment. Instead, what they appeared to be doing is censor me in just a couple of countries, but sending people around live streams and spaces who are basically pro-Israel. There to say, one turned up the other day and was just like, oh yeah, Carbine 911, it's nothing, it doesn't do anything wrong, it's just out of the blue, like they just instantly, that's the defense they're making. And it's really it's a bit awkward, but I can handle it. Very interesting that they've had to change tactics. I think that's because she's invested at such a high level now that she's in the SpaceX and stuff. It makes it very dodgy. Makes it very dodgy for a, look at me hair. Ooh, look at me hair. Anyway, never mind me hair. I hope you enjoyed that read through. I hope you learned a little bit, even if it's just a little something about Nicole Junkermann, about all of this sort of stuff. I need your support. That's why I keep saying, can you buy me a coffee or whatnot? Help with the support. But I'm also really happy that you're here, that hopefully you'll share, hopefully you'll like, hopefully you'll subscribe and do all of those things. I need help. This is not easy being independent, and you being here helps. So thank you for joining me today on this Johnny Vedmore read through of Nicole Junkermann 3.0 model on Mossad. May you have a wonderful time. See you later.
What we know is that we will end up with many more unemployed